welcome to another episode of Book HQ. As you can see, my surroundings are different. That's because I've moved my video shooting area from the salon to my home office for a couple of reasons. So my home office, as you can see, is like purple and mauve, and from now on the videos will be here. Today I'm going to be talking about a book which I've wanted to finish reading for a very long time because I started reading it 2010, 2011 ago, and I never got to finish reading it because I was on vacation visiting a friend at their holiday home in Slovenia. The book is a giant, like it is a behemoth. It's 92 chapters, so I didn't finish it during those 2 weeks on holiday, but I've always thought about it because the story is so compelling and captivating. So I recently did an Instagram poll where I was asking people which book should I read next, The Hate You Give or The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, and The Name of the Wind won, and I was quite happy actually, because while I do want to read The Hate You Give, like I said, I always wanted to finish reading The Name of the Wind. So I started reading it last week and I finished this week on Tuesday. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the book. I'm going to try not to spoil and give too much away. So the book actually has a sequel called The Wise Man's Fear, and there's a third book which is still coming out. The wait between the books have been really long. Between The Name of the Wind and The Wise Man's Fear is 8 years, and now my friend who's read them both and is waiting on the third book says she's been waiting for 5 years. She's really passionate about how sour she is about waiting for so long. Anyway, so the book, the main protagonist is this young boy called Kvote, and the whole story is set sort of in a period, I think of it in my mind as like the Game of Thrones type period, because it's in a time where they have dracuses, which is like dragons, and members of the Arcanum, who are basically a magical institution or a magical ministry. So Kvote belongs to a traveling troupe of entertainers called the Ademaru, and they have a patron, and you know, this boy is exceptional. He's exceptionally intelligent and he catches things really, really quickly. And so one day, as the troupe is traveling, they meet this elderly man called Abinthy, who Kvote calls Ben. And Abinthy is a member of the Arcanum. He is somebody who can practice sympathy, which is what they call magic in this book. And he starts to teach Kvote some of this. What actually happens is that Kvote sees this old man being harassed by the authorities, and he sees the old man mutter something under his breath, and the wind comes and sort of roughs up these people who are giving this old man a hard time. And from that moment, he wants to know how to do that, how to call the wind. And so we discover that there's this whole world of sympathy magic, and there are different sections of magic. And one of the sections is this section called naming, because if you know the true name of things, those things have to obey you or respond to you when you call them. Then there's a sinister story going on at the same time, which is about a very famous hero called Lanray, and something devastating happens to him, and he turns from the path of heroism to a very dark path. And so everybody fears the Chandrian, and the Chandrian are these 7 beings who are super evil, they're murderous, but nobody really knows what their plan is and nobody really knows what they want. What happens is that Kvote's parents somehow stumble across information about the Chandrian, which no one is supposed to, because whenever anybody does, the Chandrian come and murder everybody, and that's what happens to his whole family, his whole troop. Everyone gets murdered. So that ends up leading to him moving to the city called Tarbian, where he lives as a homeless street child for 3 years. And that's the part that I remembered in these years when I hadn't read it after I had stopped that time. The thing I remembered was the poverty and like how Patrick Rothfuss writes about it so vividly. Like it's so heartbreaking, and there's one moment in the story in particular where he has to choose between his own survival and helping someone else. For me, it like really makes you think. The whole story is being told by Kvote now as an adult, because he's now a legend. He's done several things over the course of his life since his family was murdered, and now he's finally telling his story to a scribbler. And so this is how we get immersed into the story. As he is in the present, he's kind of abandoned all of that. He's like in hiding, and he's got an apprentice who isn't quite human, but I'm not going to tell you what he is. Kvote now goes by the name Coat, and he owns an inn. He works the bar, and he's just kind of trying to live a quiet life when the scribbler comes looking for him. But then, as you keep on reading, you find out that the scribbler isn't the only one who's looking for him, and he tells the story of that time when he was homeless, and then how from there he ended up going to the university, and what happens when he's at the university, and how he starts to learn, and how he kind of encounters the Chandrian sort of a second time, and how he meets a great love called Denna, and how he also has another kind of nemesis who is a baron's son, first child heir, called Ambrose, who causes a lot of trouble for him during his time at the university. It's a very interesting story. It's just, once you start reading it, it's so hard to put it down because you really want to know like what happens next. He's at this stage only like in his early 30s or maybe mid 30s, but he's experiences so much that it's like he's lived multiple lives. I strongly recommend the book, and I'm gonna start reading The Wise Man's Fear next week, hopefully. If you have read The Name of the Wind, I want to know what you think. Click subscribe and also click the little bell thingy so that you can get notifications whenever I post a new video. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Book HQ, and I really do hope to see you next time. But until next time, keep reading and keep watching. Bye-bye.